This is Decoded, the video engineering podcast by Fora Soft. Episode 6, The Math of Bitrate and Why Raw Video is Impossibly Large.
Imagine finding out that an entire decade of Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, along with, nearly 100 original classic episodes of Doctor Who, that they weren't destroyed in some tragic studio fire or a flood.
Right.
They weren't lost by accident at all. They were permanently, intentionally erased by a math equation.
It is honestly one of the most heartbreaking realities of early television production.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to a brutal economic calculation about how much space just a single moving image takes up.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to demystify a concept that dictates our entire digital lives, yet remains completely invisible to you and me.
Totally invisible.
We are talking about the math of video bitrate.
Yeah.
We're answering a truly mind-bending question, which is, how is it physically possible to stream a 4K action movie to the phone in your pocket without completely melting the global internet?
Right, which it absolutely should do, mathematically speaking.
Exactly. And if you're listening right now, you think you hate math, you are still going to want to stick around for this. Because this invisible ledger explains literally everything about our media consumption.
It really does.
It explains why your morning Zoom calls look like a blurry mosaic, why the speeds printed on your Wi-Fi box are a total lie,
A complete lie, yeah.
and how a video codec actually tricks your eyes.
Okay.
Let's unpack this.
So to understand the trick, we really have to start with the core concept, right? Which is bitrate.
Okay.
I want you to visualize video data as water flowing through a plumbing system. The pipe itself is your internet connection, or, maybe the read speed of your computer's hard drive.
Yeah.
Bitrate is simply the liters per second that the water is moving through that pipe.
So if the video demands more water than the pipe can actually carry, the water backs up.
Exactly.
My player starts buffering, the video freezes, or I guess this system panics, and drops me to a terrible pixelated resolution just to keep some kind of flow moving.
Precisely. And to understand why this is such a massive structural problem for the entire internet, we have to look at the raw, uncompressed video.
Which is terrifying.
It really is. Every uncompressed video format in the world boils down to 3 simple multiplications. It is an incredibly elegant, but terrifying formula.
Okay, lay it on me.
You take the width of the video, multiply by the height, multiply that by the bits per pixel, which is just the physical color data.
Okay.
And finally, you multiply by the frames per second.
Let's actually walk through the math for a standard 4K video, say, running at 60 frames per second.
Okay, let's do it.
So a 4K frame is 3,840 pixels wide by 2,160 pixels tall.
Right.
That's roughly 8.3 million pixels per frame.
Exactly. Now, for high-quality professional color, what the industry calls 8-bit 4.4.4, you need 24 bits of data to accurately describe the specific color of just one of those pixels.
Just one.
Just one. So 8.3 million pixels times 24 bits. Then you have to multiply that massive number by 60 individual frames every single second.
Wait, so just for a single second of video, you're calculating the exact color of 500 million tiny dots.
500 million pieces of data every second, endlessly.
Wow.
And the mathematical result of that calculation is roughly 12 gigabits per second, or 12 Gbps.
Okay.
It is an absolute fire hydrant of data.
Let me push back here on behalf of everyone listening, because I pay a premium for quote-unquote fast internet at my house.
Oh, sure.
Surely if I have a top-tier connection, I can handle that raw video, right?
Well, not even close. The infrastructure just isn't there. If
Yeah.
you look at network statistics from 2025 and 2026, they paint a very stark reality.
How stark.
Well, in the U.S., the median home download speed is hovering right around 300 megabits per second.
Wait, megabits, not gigabits.
Right, megabits. And on a cellular network, the global mobile medium is sitting in the 60 to 100 megabits per second range.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So uncompressed 4K demands 12,000 megabits per second, and my phone can maybe pull down 100 on a perfect day?
Exactly. Even if you were sitting in a highly advanced corporate data center with a gigabit Ethernet cable plugged directly into your motherboard,
Yeah.
that pipe is still 12 times too slow to play uncompressed 4K video.
That is insane.
No consumer pipeline on Earth can carry raw video above 1080p. The only physical wires capable of handling that 12 gigabit fire hydrant are those short, specialized HDMI or SDI cables literally sitting inside a live broadcast truck.
Or I guess connecting your Apple TV box to the physical screen that's like 2 inches away.
Exactly.
So the gap between what the video demands and what the pipe can provide is just staggering. But before we get into how we bridge that gap, I have to point out the most common pitfall in this industry.
Oh, the speed confusion.
Yes, it trips up almost everyone. If I have a 100 megabit internet connection, why does a 1 gigabyte file take 80 seconds to download instead of 10? I mean, 100 goes into 1,000 10 times.
Ah, the classic factor of 8 error. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of bits versus bytes. A bit with a lowercase b is a single 0 or 1. It's a tiny slice of speed. But a byte with a capital B is an entirely different unit made up of 8 bits.
The unit of storage.
Exactly. Network speeds are sold in bits, but our hard drive files are sized in bytes.
It's like being told your local bakery produces 100 slices of pie an hour.
Okay, I like this.
But you're buying whole pies, and every pie requires 8 slices. You're not bringing home 100 pies, you're only bringing home 12 and a half.
Right.
So your 100-speed internet pipe is only delivering a 12.5 speed file download. The numbers on the billboard sound huge, but the conversion rate kills you.
That's a perfect way to visualize it. You always have to divide your advertised internet speed by 8 to find out how fast your file will actually save.
Right.
But unfortunately, it gets worse. You don't even get all 12 and a half of those pies.
Oh, wait, why not?
Because of the channel tax.
The channel tax. This explains why the speed on the side of a Wi-Fi router box is completely divorced from the payload speed you actually get on your laptop.
Exactly. Let's look at ATSC broadcast television, you know, the digital antennas on top of a house.
Sure.
The physical TV channel beamed through the air carries 32.28 megabits of data per second, but the TV decoder box in your living room only actually gets 19.39 megabits of usable video payload.
That's a huge drop. Where does the other 40% of the data go?
It goes to armor.
Armor.
Think about it. If you're beaming a fragile digital signal through the open air, it's going to encounter solar radiation, thunderstorms, airplanes, physical building.
Right, it gets scrambled.
So you have to wrap your video data in digital bubble wrap so it actually survives the journey. That means error correction codes, synchronization headers, heavy redundancy.
Oh, I see.
And Wi-Fi does the exact same thing. A massive chunk of your nameplate Wi-Fi speed isn't video at all. It's just preambles, device acknowledgements, and retransmitting packets of data that got lost when someone turned on a microwave.
So you have to budget for the throughput that actually survives the journey, not the theoretical maximum printed on the cardboard box.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. If the physical pipes max out at a fraction of what raw video needs, how do we fit a 12,000 megabit fire hydrant into a 15 megabit Netflix pipe without the whole thing exploding?
Well, we need a shrink ray.
Okay.
And that requires a very specific mental model of compression. Uncompressed video, as we established, is a fixed, brutal equation. But compressed video is an artful balancing act.
How so?
You can think of it as 4 levers pushing the data size up and 1 divider pushing it down.
Okay, so the 4 levers pushing data up are target quality, scene complexity, resolution, and frame rate.
Right.
You multiply those conceptually.
Yeah.
And then you divide all of that by your codec efficiency.
Yes.
Let's ground this in daily life for a second. If I'm sitting in my home office on a Zoom call versus sitting on my couch watching a Marvel movie, how are those specific levers being manipulated?
Let's look at the Netflix movie first. Netflix streams 4K video at around 8 to 16 megabits per second. They are heavily prioritizing the target quality lever. They want the movie to look as close to a pristine theatrical master as possible.
Sure, they want the film grain, the shadow detail.
Exactly. So they allocate a massive portion of their bit budget to quality.
But Zoom operates in a completely different reality.
Very different. Zoom runs a standard 1080p call on roughly 3 megabits per second, and if your network is struggling, it drops into an economy mode that uses just 0.6 megabits.
Wow.
Zoom intentionally cranks the target quality lever all the way down.
Because, I mean, if I'm on a Zoom call, a slightly blurry face is perfectly fine, but a 2-second audio delay completely ruins human conversation.
Right.
Zoom is sacrificing per-frame sharpness to guarantee real-time latency.
Precisely. Now, let's look at the second lever, which is scene complexity.
Okay.
This is the mechanism that explains why live sports broadcasts often look incredibly blocky, even when they have a massive bandwidth budget.
Right, because a static news anchor sitting at a desk is incredibly cheap to compress. But a stadium crowd with flashing strobe lights, confetti falling, fast camera panning, that demands 3 to 10 times more bitrate just to maintain the exact same quality.
Yes.
So why is confetti the enemy of the internet?
To understand that, you have to understand how temporal compression works. Codecs are basically prediction engines.
Okay.
When you watch a news anchor, the background doesn't move. The desk doesn't move. So instead of drawing the entire frame 60 times a second, the codec takes a shortcut.
What kind of shortcut?
It says keep the background exactly the same and only update the pixels around the anchor's moving lips. It saves a monumental amount of data.
Oh, it
Yeah.
just recycles the old pixels.
Exactly, it recycles them. But when confetti drops over a screaming stadium crowd while the camera violently pans...
Total chaos.
Total chaos. Every single pixel on the screen is changing color every single fraction of a second. The prediction engine completely breaks down.
You can't recycle anything.
Nothing. It has to stubbornly draw every single new detail from scratch, which absolutely devours your bit budget.
So throwing more data at the problem is the only way to solve a complex scene. But here's the catch. You can't just infinitely increase the bitrate and expect a perfect picture.
No, you really can't.
There's a strict law of diminishing returns.
The visual improvement is not a straight line at all. Compression expert Jan Ozer actually tested this extensively back in 2016.
What did he do?
He used a high-action test clip called Tears of Steel. When he doubled the bitrate of the video from 1600 to 3200 kilobits per second, the visual quality jumped massively, a 3.3 decibel improvement in fidelity.
Which is a huge, immediately noticeable leap to the human eye.
It is,
Yeah.
but when he applied the exact same mathematical doubling again, going from 3200 up to 4800 kilobits,
Another big jump?
no, it only bought a microscopic 1.44 decibel polish.
Oh, wow. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is why streaming services don't just infinitely throw data at a video. After that first doubling, you are paying a massive premium in server bandwidth costs for microscopic improvements that are practically invisible to the human eye.
Think of it like building a house. The first big chunk of data builds the structural foundation of the house. Everything after that is just dusting the furniture.
I love that. So throwing more bits at a file eventually hits a wall. But what if we change the canvas size itself? What happens when we pull the third lever resolution?
So this introduces a fascinating concept called bits per pixel, or BPP. Now, this metric confuses a lot of junior engineers because it means two completely different things depending on the context.
Right. Earlier we talked about the raw depth, the 24 bits needed to physically color an uncompressed pixel. But what is the second meaning?
The second meaning is the compressed density. It's a measure of how many bits of the final compressed stream are landing on each pixel per second.
Okay.
This number is tiny, usually between 0.02 and 0.3. Video engineers use it like a smoke detector to instantly spot if a file is overfed with wasted data or starved and looking terrible.
And this brings us to something deeply counterintuitive, the resolution law.
Yeah, this one is weird.
Assuming the visual quality stays exactly the same, the bits per pixel actually falls as the resolution gets bigger. I mean, if the picture is massive, shouldn't every pixel need more data?
It feels like a total paradox, but it comes down to spatial compression.
Oh, explain that.
Think about a massive 4K cinematic frame of a landscape. A large frame contains wide expanses of continuous, smooth areas, a clear blue sky, a blank concrete wall, a dark, out-of-focus background.
Right.
So instead of calculating temporal movement over time, the codec is grouping things together spatially inside the same frame. It looks at the top half of the screen and says, hey, the next 10,000 pixels are the exact same shade of blue.
Oh, so it creates a mathematical block and just paints the whole area at a massive discount.
That's it. Now, if you take that exact same cinematic scene and shrink it down into a tiny standard definition window, you lose all that smooth, easy-to-predict space.
The blue sky shrinks to nothing.
Exactly. Every surviving pixel in that tiny frame is now an edge, a face, a leaf. It is carrying complex, unique detail. Therefore, every individual pixel in a smaller video actually costs more bits to compress than a pixel in a massive video.
That is completely wild.
Yeah.
And there is a specific rule of thumb for this, right? Built by Ben Wagner, former compression lead at Microsoft.
Yes. He popularized the power of 0.75 rule.
Which means what?
Wagner's rule mathematically proves you don't just scale bitrate linearly. If you quadruple the physical number of pixels on screen, say jumping from a tiny 360p video up to a 720p HD video, you don't just multiply your bitrate by 4, you only scale it by a power of 0.75.
So if your small video looks great at 500 kilobits per second, the HD version doesn't demand 2,000 kilobits. It only demands about 1,414 kilobits. You get a massive built-in discount because high resolutions compress so much more efficiently.
That 30% spatial discount is an absolute lifeline for streaming architectures.
And that discount isn't just about saving server bandwidth so your movie doesn't buffer. It is a brutal economic battle for physical storage space.
It really is.
And that battle is exactly what erased those missing pieces of human history we talked about at the beginning.
Yes, the lost tapes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In the 1950s and 60s, a 1-hour reel of 2-inch broadcast videotape cost about $300.
Which is thousands of dollars in today's money for a single hour of recording medium.
Right. So broadcasters did the math. They realized the physical magnetic tape was far too expensive to just sit in a warehouse acting as an archive.
They treated it like an expensive, reusable blank canvas. Record a show, air it to the public, wipe the tape clean, and use it again for tomorrow's news broadcast.
It's so painful to think about. Because of that ledger math, an accountant effectively chose the shelf space over the art.
Absolutely.
And that is why 97 original episodes of Doctor Who were wiped and are lost forever, erased. Not by accident, but by a rigid budget calculation.
It's a tragic reality. And, while we don't overwrite master tapes to film the evening news anymore, that exact same dollar per terabyte arithmetic absolutely governs modern streaming.
Really? How so?
It is the dynamic between hot and cold storage.
Okay, so I imagine the movie I'm watching tonight is sitting on a fast server just down the street, but the master copy is locked away somewhere cheaper.
Precisely. When you hit play on an app, you are pulling from a delivery copy sitting on a hot disk.
Right.
These are expensive, lightning-fast, solid-state drives sitting physically close to you on the delivery network, priced for constant, immediate access by millions of people. But the pristine, uncompressed master file of that movie, it lives in deep, cold storage.
Wait, like magnetic tape? Like a cassette tape from the 80s?
Conceptually, yes. The deep archives of the internet are often sitting on LTO magnetic tapes.
That's amazing.
A modern LTO cartridge holds roughly 18 terabytes of data. It lasts for 30 years without degrading, and it is incredibly cheap per terabyte. But there is a massive catch.
Availability.
Exactly.
Right, it's cold storage. It's not instantaneous.
It takes minutes to access a file, not milliseconds, because when a systems engineer requests a master file from an LTO archive, a physical robot arm literally has to roll down an aisle in a massive warehouse.
No way.
Yeah, find the specific cartridge on a shelf, pick it up, load it into a mechanical tape drive, and physically spool the tape to copy the data.
So if a company budgets their instant streaming platform using the cheap price of cold storage, but expects the instant access of hot storage, their budget will just implode.
Completely implode.
So network bandwidth and hard drive storage are these immovable financial obstacles. Which brings us back to our mental model of compression. We talked about the levers pushing data up. But there was one final divider pushing the data down, shrinking the file.
Codec efficiency.
Right. And this is the only lever that naturally gets cheaper over time.
Because human beings get smarter at writing the math. Every new generation of codec buys you a massive 30% to 50% leap in efficiency for the exact same visual quality.
The compounding interest over the years is incredible. I mean, we went from the old H.264 standard to HEVC to AV1 and now VVC.
Right.
By 2026, the AV1 codec can ship a 4K video using only about 1/3 of the data that the old H.264 codec would have required for the exact same picture. It finds better patterns, it throws away more redundant pixels.
It is a staggering achievement in software engineering.
But wait, I have to push back here. If AV1 is radically better and saves companies all this money on LTO tapes and bandwidth, why does the Bitmove and developer report say that H.264 still holds 80% market adoption? That feels completely backwards. Why are we still using ancient tech?
Because technical superiority does not equal market adoption. It all comes down to the physical hardware reality in your hand.
How does the hardware block the math?
H.264 is old, yes. But precisely because it is old, it decodes using dedicated hardware silicon chips on practically every single device on Earth.
Oh, I see.
Your 10-year-old smart TV, your cheap smartphone, your tablet, they all have a physical, customized factory line inside their processor designed specifically to decode H.264 effortlessly without waking up the main CPU and without draining the battery.
And AV1.
AV1 requires brand new silicon to decode efficiently.
Right.
If you try to force an older phone to decode a complex AV1 video using general software rather than a dedicated hardware chip, it's like asking a bunch of middle managers to manually build a car instead of using an assembly line.
That sounds horribly inefficient.
It is. It decodes roughly 10 times slower, and it will burn through the phone's battery in a matter of minutes. You can have the most elegant math in the world, but if the physical chips in the audience's pockets can't run it, you can't ship it.
So the hardware dictates the reality. That makes perfect sense. Now, before we wrap up, we need to cover one final trap to avoid when dealing with these compression specs. Never, ever trust an average bitrate.
Trusting the average is the quickest way to accidentally break a streaming network.
Right, because if I read a spec sheet that says a Netflix stream averages 15 megabits per second, and I know my network pipe is a rock-solid 18 megabits per second,
You'd think you're safe.
logically, I should be totally fine.
You would think so. But modern codecs use variable bitrate. The data speed isn't a flat, predictable line.
Okay.
During a quiet scene where two people are just talking in a room, the bitrate might drop to just 5 megabits. The network is relaxed.
Right.
But the second a car explodes and confetti drops from the ceiling, the scene complexity skyrockets, the temporal prediction engine breaks down, and that bitrate can spike to 25 megabits per second for a 5-second burst.
And if my network is only built to handle 18...
The water backs up in the pipe. The video freezes and buffers right during the most exciting, action-packed part of the movie. Networks always have to be sized for the peak burst of data, never the average.
Wow. So what does this all mean? To summarize, bitrate is the invisible puppet master of our digital lives.
It really is.
It dictates corporate bandwidth bills. It dictates the physical robotics of storage costs. It determines if cultural history is saved on tape or wiped away for a news broadcast. And it's the sole reason a video either looks like a cinematic masterpiece or a buffering mosaic of colored blocks.
What's fascinating here is that every video you have ever watched on a screen is just the ultimate compromise between physical infrastructure, corporate economics, and the limits of human perception.
Absolutely. But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. We've talked about how every generation of codec squeezes 50% more efficiency just by finding clever patterns and throwing away redundant pixels.
Right.
But what happens when we hit the absolute physical limit of that math? When there are no more redundancies to find, will the next generation of compression stop transmitting pixels entirely?
Imagine a future where a streaming service just sends a tiny kilobyte text prompt to your TV, asking an AI chip to perfectly hallucinate the movie on the fly, frame by frame. Keep an eye on your screens, because the future of video might not be broadcast at all. It might be generated.
That was Decoded, the video engineering podcast by Fora Soft. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.